The year 2020 brought us a lot of new things. Yes, COVID being one of them, but also lots of new podcasts. A lot of people had more time on their hands, and so it was just naturally a good time to try it out. That was the case for today's guest, Jenice Lee, who started a podcast as a hobby, but has since transitioned it to an important marketing tool for her business. She's an educator and out-of-school time program advocate who has 2 decades of experience serving youth in public schools and nonprofit organizations. She's developed and implemented innovative programming techniques that are consistent with best practices in out-of-school time programming and social-emotional learning. Through her youth development consulting business, School After Hours Consulting, Jenice has helped site directors and program providers create youth programs that increase student engagement, foster community among staff and students, and operate program logistics with ease. She continues to express her love of education and youth development through her podcast, School After Hours. Jenice is here today to tell us about her experience with starting a podcast and keeping that momentum going after starting, how she transitioned into using it as a marketing tool for her business, and what kinds of results she's seen for her business since making that transition. Plus, she shares some really cool ways that she has extended her podcast through things like live podcasting at conferences, as well as starting a YouTube channel. Let's go ahead and get started. Your podcast is a powerful tool that serves your audience and your business. But how do you manage it all, bring in new listeners, and convert those listeners into customers? That's what this show is all about. Welcome to Podcasting for Educators. I'm Sarah Whitaker, classroom teacher turned podcast manager, and I'm here to help you get the most out of your show, all while making an impact on other educators. All right, we are here with Jenice. Jenice, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I love having people on the show to share about their experience with podcasting. Everybody does things a little bit differently, so it's nice to get all of these different perspectives. So we're going to be talking about your podcasting experience today. You have a podcast called School After Hours. Let's get right into it. Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast and who it's for?
Okay, sure. So School After Hours is a podcast that is for after school time programs, youth development, those that are in management of school sites, after school programs, all those things, or even program providers that are coming into the space that's learning more about the after school time setting, but also how to, share their skills and teach the children and be part of that whole ecosystem of education. So on the show, we talk about a variety of things and, how it's linked to education, also the business aspect of it, right? Because there's a little business involved, but we also have those conversations of managing staff. What does that look like? Things that could be working great in your program and some tools and tips that you may want to use to go ahead and, make that enriching space for your children that you're serving. But, we also do some site director talk, some things that happen on the back end that nobody really wants to talk about.
Yes.
Those after sessions when everybody clock out and they just sitting down at the table like, let me tell you what happened. So we have those conversations. The juicy stuff. So we have those conversations as well. So that was the start of the podcast. And it has an interesting story if you let me tell it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was going to be my next question. Tell us why you decided to start this in the first place.
So it happened during the pandemic. I was one of those podcasters. Yes. So podcasting was something that I was learning about in the process. In the beginning of the pandemic, we thought it was just going to be a 2-week thing. Everybody will be back, in settings and all the children and all the things and all the activities. So did not happen. So.
Oh my gosh.
I know. No, it seems like a close but distant memory. I got furloughed from my job because we were no longer doing after school programming because, as you know, schools were closed, just, for a safe environment. So I found myself with a lot of time on my hands and I needed something to do because I am a doer. So I started to looking into some things to not make side things to make money off of, but also just trying to find a new hobby, in the same breath, right? Because like I said, I have all this time on my hands. And I happened to come across, something about podcasting. And I was like, I'm chatty. I could talk all day, Laura. I could talk. So that was the start of the idea. But what really pushed me to really start a podcast is because when I was looking and I started to get really into podcasts and listening to some different podcasts, I could not find anything for youth development. especially specifically to youth development professionals that work on site, that are actually doing the frontline work in programming and, helping providers build out, their skills and all those other wonderful things to make great programming, not just for students, but also for community members that want to get involved as well. Could not find it to save the life of me. So I happened to come across this article that basically said that after school programming might not make it because of the state of the pandemic. It may be a whole Reynolds wrap for us. So that didn't sit well with me. And me being who I am, I'm like, I feel like you lying. I feel like you're not telling me the whole truth. There may be something that you don't know. But I started looking into, podcasting and taking it serious. And I had a conversation with my husband who helps me with my production for my podcast. And I was like, so I think I want to start a podcast. He was like, wait, what? Wait, where did this idea come from? I was like, no, but listen, hear me out. So I gave him the whole spiel about, the things, not finding, all the stuff. And he was like, okay, I'll be on board.
All right.
You with this process, but you got to have a plan. I'm like, we can figure that out along the way. It's fine. Got it. We're good.
I got two different personalities. This husband,
I'm like, jump off the building without no plan, with no safety net, not knowing if anything is down there.
I love that because so many people that I talk to, they are so scared to jump in, and you're like, let's do this. I love that.
And he's like, so we kind of need a plan. We need to make sure there's a net down there. We need a contingency plan on top of a contingency plan on top of a contingency plan. So I just need you to have a strategy.
Yes. Smart man.
It's fine. We're going to work it out. We're going to figure it out. We're going to learn as we go. It's okay. So I literally gave myself a month to put this together.
Yeah.
And put it up. And thankfully, I did the podcast website. I got, started calling people that I knew that were still doing programming and doing great things to share their stories on the show and, their innovations and sharing how our school time programming was changing, but also how it was still reaching families as well as students as well.
I just love hearing about all of this. And it sounds like you've got the perfect personality for podcasting. It's great that you just kind of jumped right in there and that you contacted people right away to come on the show. That's just a great way to get those first guests, but also get the word out about your show. So tell us, do you do independent consulting?
Yes.
Okay.
I do independent consulting. So that was something that happened as I was doing my podcast. I actually had a guest on my show, and he was interested in doing a after school program for young men, more of a mentorship thing to add to his business that he has. So after talking with him, and his wife was actually on my show too, we had a different dialogue, a conversation of, some of the things that he could do. I kind of walked him through the process of what to add, some of the things that he wants to, take into consideration. Just, friendly consulting, right?
Yeah.
And so he heard my ideas and said, this is great. This is definitely what I want to do. He's like, so what do you think about putting this together? I was like, say what? Say what? You sure? Now, this has been a dream of mine for a while because I always wanted to do consulting for out of school time programming, but just really didn't know a way to go about it. So in the way of having this podcast, it kind of made that opportunity for me. And I took him on as my first client. And now he's about a year, matter of fact, 2 years into out of school time programming, has had great success with his program, and now has branched out to more than one school to have his program featured as a program provider in after school time programming. So I'm really, really happy about that.
I'm obsessed with that story. That's amazing that your podcast opened these doors for your business. And I'd love to talk more about that. And I think it's so cool that you have such a clearly defined niche and audience, and that there was nothing else out there when you started. How cool is that you were really the first podcast to be able to serve these people? Do you know if are there any others?
I do. So there are a few, but nothing that really dives into the true management, the building, the strategy, so you got to talk to somebody about money and grants. That's a thing.
Yeah. Somebody telling them exactly what they really need to know.
Right. So I would like to say we circled around that based on some of the things that we did see out there, but not really touch exactly on those things. So I like to say now that social media is becoming such a big thing, not just for advertisement for business, but also incorporating that also into out of school time programming to tell your story. I've been able to reach out to other people and get them to have those conversations on our show as well, how to use that for your branding.
Yes, amazing. So let's back up a little bit. When you first started, like, how did it go at first? Have things been kind of like smooth sailing for you? Was it hard to keep up with? How did you really keep that momentum up after starting?
Sure. So absolutely not. It was not smooth at all. With anything comes with its twists, its turns, its moments of, do I really want to do this? So it was all of those things, and learning how to stay centered in the sense of being like, I have a sense of gratitude because this is definitely an opportunity, but also reaching out and being thankful for the relationships that you do build in the process of doing this, right? And keeping those as my why. Like, why do I do this? Because I wish when I was a site director, like I had a tool like this that was available to me that could kind of walk me through this process or try this specific idea or even put me in connection to like a different podcast or different type of leadership that I may not be getting directly, which is what I need. So in keeping that in mind, it was started off as like, let's do some interviews to see where we are, to see how it goes. And then from there, it definitely evolved into something else of, okay, so we need to go deeper into what really those individuals may need. So like I said, doing something around social media, also changing the formatting of the show. Because once upon a time, I was just talking to talk.
Yes.
We were here for hours and my husband had to tell me like, so this is great that you have these conversations, which I think is lovely because it brings a lot of things, but I need you to keep in mind of your timing because,
What a good husband,
right?
Keeping you in check.
Right? On the straight and narrow. He is definitely the yin to my yang because I'd be like,
that's a good team right there. Yeah.
So changing the format of the show is something that I definitely had to take into consideration, like doing it in segments so people can get what they need depending on like what they're looking for. So that's important to me, especially when we went over to now being on YouTube, having our YouTube channel. That's a little different. That's a little different.
It's a whole nother ball game.
Yes, that's a little different, but it gave me an opportunity to now do like program site visits and show what after school programming actually looks like in different settings and what people are doing and how that's being incorporated into out of school time programming. And because of that opportunity, I got a chance, or I'm getting a chance to work with a school and helping them put together a production for podcasts. The ink ain't dry, so I can't mention their name yet.
Oh my gosh. How cool is that? That's amazing. So, congratulations.
Yeah, Thank you.
So many cool things happening. And I love that you bring up the fact that, sometimes when we start a podcast or really anything in our business, we have this idea of like what it's going to look like. And then we start, especially with podcasting. I love that you have let your guests and your listeners kind of help drive the direction that your podcast is going and the content that you're creating. Because sometimes we think that our listeners need one thing, and then we end up finding out that they need another thing. And so I think that's really important to keep in mind as a podcaster, is just always being in tune with what people actually need, which can sometimes be different than what we want to talk about or what we think we should talk about.
Exactly.
Okay, so you gave us a couple of examples already of some cool things that have come out of your podcast in terms of how it's helped your business. How else have you kind of transitioned from maybe starting out as like a hobby into really using this as a marketing tool for your business?
So definitely being more present and getting comfortable with the idea of doing solo episodes to share like what my expertise is.
Yeah.
Because you'll know me as J. Lee doing school after hours. And, we're having these great conversations with others, but giving you an idea of who I am as an individual, but also someone that is invested in your program or helping you develop your program so that you can win and get the results that you want. So that came with, adding my own little ads when I do podcasting and doing interviews with other shows, but also when I do my own solo episode, advertise the things that I'm doing on my social media, my Instagram or my Facebook page that continues to show my expertise and give you different ideas to try or point you in the direction of somebody that's doing something that could, help you in your process.
Yes. I love to hear it. Love to hear that you're sharing about the things that you offer and creating podcast ads. That's great. So are there any other like opportunities that have come for you through your podcast that you want to share?
Yes. So I got an opportunity to do my first webinar.
Nice. Nice.
For another guest that was actually on my show. So,
Wow.
right. All things. So using that to go ahead and feature like my services as far as, helping with the planning process or helping individuals build out what they want to do for their program and how to go about it and some of the things that you may want to look into. So that is an amazing thing that's happening to me, which is taking place very soon. But also I want to start looking into course creation as well. Because as one individual, one solo person, you can only do but so much, right?
Yeah.
But if you could learn how to streamline that process and then go ahead and give it to people where it's bite sized, it gives them exactly what they need, but, keep them coming back for more. That's also helpful and it takes less work from you as a person.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like what you've described as far as like how you support people and the content that you create would lend itself really well to a course for that community.
Yeah, most definitely. Most
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay, so you said that you are on YouTube. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. So you're doing video on YouTube? Okay. So what does that look like exactly?
So video is me being a little bit more interactive. That's my, hey, we get to see the people and they visually get to see the individual having the conversation in our dialogues like this. But also, we get to go on, like I said, site tours of after school programs. So I get to tell you or get to show you like different things that programs are doing. How's it working for them? But also give those programs an opportunity to tell their story at the same time. So one of the things that I'm finding is that especially small programs really don't often get the shine that they need or that they should get compared to these other bigger organizations. So this I thought was a big opportunity, especially in the tri-city area of Richmond, Virginia, to go around to those small programs or the medium-sized programs to show the work that they're doing, to give them more visibility and, community awareness at the same time.
Okay, hold on. Are you you're in Richmond?
Yeah.
I don't know if I knew that. I'm in Fredericksburg.
Oh, you're not far.
Yeah, we're so close. My husband works in Richmond at least once a week. That is crazy.
Nice.
We'll have to meet up and have a little coffee date or something.
I would love that.
Oh my gosh. I always get so excited when I hear people live close to me because, people in my day-to-day world have no idea what I do or anything like that. So, okay, that is so neat. Okay, so I have so many questions. When you do a site visit, because I think that's perfect for you to be on YouTube for that, do you also air that same audio from that visit on your audio only podcast? Like it's the same episodes on both or?
Depending. So for the recent one that I just did, we did a school tour and we did like individual interviews of, specific people that played like a huge part in that. Right. So what I will do is that I would air the video first. And if we have like a good quality for the interview, because I'm at this point running around recording on my phone.
Yeah.
Then, we'll pull out the camera and be like, okay, we're going to do backup shots.
Yeah.
It's like a whole film production that goes on.
Yeah.
So if we have like a really, really good quality and a really good conversation, then I'll go ahead and make that separate and I'll put that interview on the audio version. So recently we did one with John Marshall High School and I had a great interview with the principal and she shared her story of how they got their accreditation, but also how they used their after school program to help prepare students for vocational skills and how that's helping them build careers outside of school. One student that they had was a very, very successful story. He has his own production company, his video company right out of high school. And so he's been doing well with that and also has jobs with, universities in the Tri-City area. And their goal is to give their kids those specific skills so that they can move forward and, make the successful life that they want to if they're not going to college. And if they are, give them all the resources that they need to be successful.
So neat. You're just using your platform in so many really cool and impactful ways. So congrats to you. I think this is amazing. And I just feel like you're using your podcast in a unique way than some other people I talk to. So this is really cool to hear about. Have there been any, I didn't even ask you, I think I saw you do bi-weekly?
Yes.
Okay. And have you always done that?
Yes, because it is a lot, as you
Yes.
know.
Yes. It is.
It is a lot. Eventually, we want to move to like more of a weekly episode, but with all the things that's coming down the pipeline and me being realistic of the time that I do have available, bi-weekly is the most successful that we have in what we've been doing so far. So those in-betweens that, we're not, putting out a show, we may be sending a email to kind of catch people up. We may be sending, being more a little interactive on social media so people know what's going on behind the scenes, all those wonderful things to kind of keep engagement going, but also give people an idea of what we're going to be talking about next.
Yeah, love it. If that schedule is working for you, I say stick with it with everything else that you've got going on too. Is Instagram like the biggest platform that you use to share? Are you on LinkedIn?
So I am on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and those are all the three that I can manage right now.
3 is enough.
3 is more than enough, but we are mostly active on Instagram and branching out a little bit more into Facebook, being that they do have a few more features that's available. So they have, their TV portion that's going like very, very viral right now. So once I learn and master that,
Another thing to learn.
right. Yeah, that's exactly where I will be. But Instagram is where we're most popular and where we get a good portion of our followers from.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, 3 platforms along with your podcast is plenty. I would think that LinkedIn would be a good place for you to be as well with who your audience is.
Right. And it's using that reach out method and that consistent post method.
Yeah.
Being that, we are an organization that works with professionals. Just finding a way to use that space a little bit more efficiently. So that's what I'm in the process of discovering right now, because you can't use LinkedIn like you use Instagram.
Right.
It's a little different. What's good for that audience and who's following you in that audience and diving into what they need.
Yes. And so are most of your guests up to this point people that you already know, or are they people that you're reaching out to on some of these platforms?
So for the first year that we did podcasting, it was the people that we knew and we were developing relationships with to be on the show. And it was great because then like they would refer us to different people that were doing different things. And then around the second year, it became, me reaching out to people because my well ran dry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So me, hey, I think you'd be a great guest on the show. These are some of the things that we do and we talk about. Would you be interested? And people came on the show that way. And it started to shift when we were able to go to our first national conference and do a live podcast at Boost Conference, because they have like an educational podcasting, podcast lounge segment. And once we did that, I noticed that, a little bit more like people started to come in for us and, wanted to be guests on the show. And then, our listenership went up a little bit, but we also got opportunities to connect with different people and have them come to be on the show and be guests for like the following year. So with that experience, I kind of flipped the switch in my head, like maybe we need to be doing more conferences and getting in front of more people that way. Like that may be something that I need to look into. So we're in the process of reaching out to educational conferences and youth development conferences right now on the state level to see if they want to have us as guests and do like a live show so we could be part of their after school production.
I love it. I love that you're taking that initiative to reach out to these people because there's so much opportunity out there. And these in-person events come with so much opportunity. You meet so many people. You're putting yourself in front of a new group of people. And that's so cool that you did a live recording. Did you post about that on your Instagram?
Yes, recently? You got to go like way, way down.
Okay. I feel like I remember seeing something about that.
Yes, we did. We did a live recording and I believe it's still up on our Instagram. And we had the wonderful guest from After School Alliance. It was a huge organization. And then we had the director of Utah After School Network on our show. And he's been on our show a couple of times, actually, Ben and his staff. They've done like some really, really good interviews and given a lot of great information for after school programming.
So cool. I'll have to see if I can find where it is on your Instagram and I'll link that in the show notes.
No problem. I'll send them to you. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take that. Thank you. Thanks so much. Well, is there anything else that you want to share as we wrap up that maybe we haven't talked about that you were hoping to share today in terms of your podcasting journey?
Yeah. So one thing that I would say in transitioning in this process of being a doing this as a hobby to now incorporating this into a business, the one thing I wanted to share is don't let your fear and your doubt get the best of you. I don't think we talk enough about, that component or those aspects of it. You see and you hear, just go ahead and do it. It'll be fine. You'll figure it out. But no one really sits to talk about the fears that may come up in your mind of, am I good enough? Like, can I really do this? Who's going to pay attention? All those things. Learning how to be okay with who you are and be confident in the skill that you have and know that there's nobody that can do it like you can. Because if there was, it'd be done, right?
Yeah. 100%. Yes.
So owning your skill and owning your confidence and owning your power and be like, okay, I'm going to figure out a way to move forward with this, and know that you will stumble along the way, but know that those are just learning processes that you're going to go to in order to get to where you need to go.
Yes.
And, put one foot in front of the other until you get to that destination, whatever it may be and whatever it may look like.
Yes. Such good advice. You do have to lean into your unique strengths and your personality, especially in this space when there's so many people telling you to do things this way. And when you make that transition into really being intentional about the content that you're putting out in terms of how it's going to support your business, that definitely comes with a lot of mindset blocks of being nervous to share about what you offer or wanting to provide value and not feeling like you're just spitting out sales stuff at people. It comes with a lot of challenges. So I think that that's really, really good advice. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It's just so nice to meet you face to face and hear about your experience. And I'm just so grateful to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun.
Awesome. Me too. And tell everybody where they can find you online.
Yes. So if you are looking for me and you want to know more about what I do, you can go ahead and look up School After Hours on Instagram, as well as the same thing at School After Hours on Facebook. We're also available on YouTube. If you look up School After Hours podcast, you can go ahead and look at our YouTube channel and see all the wonderful things that we are doing over there. And you'll get to see like our site visits, our resource location stuff, our core conversations, our community conversations, all the things that we highlight, within our community that's helpful to not just our families, but also our students, as well as our after school programs, all the things in between. So go ahead and check us out, but also like and subscribe.
Yes, 100%. Go follow the podcast. And I'm excited to check out your YouTube channel. You're doing so many amazing things and supporting your community in so many ways. So I wish you the best of luck and can't wait to hear what comes next.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you again to Jenice for coming on and sharing about your experience. It is so cool to hear about how something that started as a hobby has made such an impact on your business and on your community. If you're listening and have been sitting on the idea of starting a podcast, I have a free podcast launch guide that you can download that will help you get started as soon as today. You can grab it at podcastingforeducators.com/launch guide. Thanks for spending some time with us today, and I'll catch you here next week. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. To keep this conversation going, connect with me on Instagram at Podcasting for Educators. I'm always looking for an excuse to talk about podcasting. If you're looking for support in launching, managing, or growing your podcast, check out my online course, the Podcasting for Educators Prep School, at podcastingforeducators.com/prep school. I'll see you here next time.